Hello, Aaron, and welcome you. I would like to welcome you in this conference and welcome you in my workshop. Those of you who doesn't know me, my name is Gabor fuzy from Hungary. I've been there a few times teaching you. I really enjoyed it and I really miss those times. Because of the circumstances, we can only do this conference this way, but I hope you will enjoy it. Now, on this workshop, I would like to introduce you to a very unique concept I developed many years ago called rapid back pain solution, and I will talk about that deeply. So I would like to introduce you to this concept a little bit. It's a 2 days program, so I won't be able to teach everything, but I would like to give you an insight and through that a little bit more understanding about back pain, of a few things we need to know about back pain. First of all, I would like to tell you how this, basically how I came up to this solution to this program. When I was competing in track and field, I had a very serious injury. So one day we did testing and I felt a snap in my back, and I even told to my coach, I think I broke my back. And then the next couple of days I couldn't move, and they find a permanent damage in my back. And I had two choices left: surgery and quitting of all kind of sports and movement, or exercise for life. And I did choose the last one. This led me to a road of studying and understanding and a quest about back pain and movement. This is when I came across with Pilates also. First I did more of a classical type of Pilates, then more of a modified or a modernized approach of Pilates. And beside this I studied strength and conditioning, working with professional athletes, rehabilitation, holistic nutrition, so lots of things which was surrounding and supporting this quest. And the more and more I studied, the more and more I understood about back pain. So there is a few things I would like to clear with you on this. Is basically 80% of the modern society, and I would call modern society is everyone who lives in this civilized society. That means go to school, drives a car, so a lot more sedentary and less active. Basically, that's the modern society. And by statistic, people in the modern society, 80% of the adults will involve at some point in their life with back pain. So back pain is actually the most common form of movement pain or movement disorders, we could call them. And one thing I would like to put in your mind right now is where you have the pain, and it's not just for back pain, but for a lot of problems, a lot of other pains, is where you have the pain is not where you have the problem. So you have to remember this. And on this workshop, I would like we will do a lecture. So the first part will be a lecture, then I would like to do a little movement with you to understand what I was talking about. So back pain is the most common, but where you have the pain is not where you have the problem, and I will clear that for you soon. So when I started to study and started to take on Pilates, I started to do the movement, I started to understand more and more. But it's really later I started to understand and came up with technique when I was working with professional athletes. Because when we were working with professional athletes, to achieve results, the time, it was very limited and it was very crucial. So the fastest we could achieve results, the better was it, and it was crucial. And and with most athletes I was training with, within 3 months, they were able to outperform their results ever before. So most of them achieved personal best or medals, national or international medals, within 3 months of time frame, and I will tell you more of this. And It's because I started to use some techniques which in a very rapid way it was realigning the function of the body. So they were functioning much better, much more compact or much more in harmony. And another edge to this is, I used to tell this story that I was a little bit lazy in school, and I always find a faster way of achieving things. And in universe, I always thought there is a balance. So if injury or pain comes within seconds, solution should be able to come in seconds also. And this is how I started to find techniques which were supporting this. Now, a few things we need to understand. So over on this, I've been dealing with back patients now 20 years. And it took me a few years to come up with this method and technique. And then the next couple of years I was trying to finalize it to find patterns. And I was able to figure out some patterns in back pain. So every back pain is individual, but they organized around a few patterns. And if you understand the patterns, then we can bring a solution. And I got to that point that I was able to duplicate what I was doing, and I was able to teach for people who were also delivering the same results. So within a very few seconds, minutes, they were able to analyze and find the real cause of the pain, because when we were targeting the real cause of the pain, of back pain, really the back pain gone within seconds, and not just gone, but the results were always permanent, so not temporary. So let's understand a few things about back pain. So basically, what is pain? Where is it coming from? Pain is coming from the mechanoreceptors. So there are special receptors located in your muscles, mainly around the belly, so the center of the muscles, called mechanoreceptors. And they are being aggravated. They are being aggravated most of the time by stiffness, and because of that you feel the pain. But as I said, and I will say it a few more times, it's where you have the pain, is not where you have the problem. Now, let's understand a few things, like I call it the back theory, to understand more of this. If you look at how we as humans grow and evolve, so when we're born with mobility. So we have a newborn baby, extremely limber, mobile, no strength, no stability. So we have the mobility given by God, or however we call it, however we name it. Then through small movements, we start to develop stability around the joints. And this will be very important, and I will come back to this. And once we have mobility and stability, we can start to do movement. Okay? And with movement, we develop strength. And only when we have these in place, that's when we can attend to power. And why is it important? Because I remember you guys, when I was teaching that, and most of you were also a sport coach. So you're working with athletes. And if you work with athletes, power is a crucial measurement of sport performance. But you can only achieve, as I said earlier, real power, if you have the strength, the movement, the stability and mobility properly in place. So if you have an injury or an underperforming athlete, you basically have to analyze what's missing. Do they have power? If no, then that's the easier thing. Do they have proper strength? If not, then you just need to add on strength. But if they don't have mobility, then you cannot do power until movement. You cannot do power until movement is corrected and strength is realigned. But if you dig, so you have to find where is the problem. And if they have mobility, then you have to realign all the above as well. So you have to create a new mobility, a new stability to that, a new movement pattern, a new strength, and then you will have a higher level of power. This is what I normally achieve within about 3 months as the shortest period. But this is how we grow and how we evolve. So a kid cannot run and jump until it has these in place. Now, most of you, if not all of you, are Pilates teacher, and Joseph Pilates was talking a lot about this, and he was talking about in a way of precision. So that means you have to do the movement as it designed and intended to do. If not, you are not targeting what it's supposed to. So if you don't do the movement in precision, you will not achieve the proper mobility, stability, movement and strength. And that's very important in Pilates, and Joseph Pilates talked a lot about this. Now, back to this mobility, stability things. So the mobility and stability is basically, it's with that, the human body, it says the two ends of the spectrum, the scale, the two ends of the scale. So you have mobility and you have stability on either side, and everything else in between. So now today in the fitness industry is very common to involve mobility exercises to increase mobility, or stability exercises to increase stability. But what you need to understand is, if you work to achieve mobility, you work from stability towards mobility. If you work to achieve stability, you work from mobility towards stability. So you are gaining one and losing the other. You have to keep that in mind, because you can very easily overdo it. And there are programs and systems which focusing on one and creating a problem because they are overdoing it. They are over-mobilized or over-stabilize the body. Because our body is a really amazing thing. It's a very specific design unit. And our joint structure has been designed specifically also. So our joint structures designed to create something what I call the arthrokinetic chain. That means you have a mobile joint, then you have a stable joint. A mobile joint, a stable joint, so these are in layers. So you have mobile joint, stable joint, mobile joint, stable joint, same. Mobile, stable, mobile, stable. So it structures like that. But each joint requires some form of mobility, some stability. So they are either more mobile or more stable or more mobile. For example, the wrist and the ankle both tends to be more mobile, but not in the same degree. So the wrist is a lot more mobile, where the ankle is a lot more stable. Same if you look at the elbow and the knee. So the elbow and the knee both tend to be more stable, but the knee is a lot more stable, the elbow is a lot more mobile to compare. So each of the joints has a specific space or place in this mobility stability continuum. And if we impact or influence one of the joints, it will influence all the rest of the joints. So it will influence the full arthrokinetic chain and will affect our body. It's like the butterfly effect. And I would like to call you up now for a simple demonstration. I normally do that in live, but because of the circumstances, we will do it in this way. So I know in your culture is still supporting doing a good form of squatting, but let's try squatting. So parallel feet position, and just do 2-3 squats. Doesn't matter how you do it, just 2-3 squats. And just feel how deep you can go and how easily you can go. It doesn't matter what type you are doing, just do 2-3 and just feel how you are doing it. Now the next thing to do is come down to the floor, place down the back of the palm like this, and then straighten out your arm, or try to straighten it out, rotate it and pull it backward, and then release it. Then straighten, rotate, pull, release. Straighten, rotate, pull, release. Then get the wrist, move it this way, rotate, move it, rotate, and then loosen a little bit the joints. Okay, so now we're working with the ankle joint. Come back to squatting, stand up, and do the same squatting, exactly the same, again 2-3 times. And try to feel and notice the difference, whether if it's deeper or easier. And 80% of the time you should be feeling, I cannot get feedback, but you should be feeling a difference in your squatting. It's a little bit easier, it's a little bit more fluent, or sometimes it's even deeper. Right? So your ankle, your wrist has nothing to do with squatting. Okay? I'm pretty sure you know this. All we did is we were influencing the full arthrokinetic chain by influencing one of the joints, and it's influenced and impacted in a positive way your squatting performance. Okay. So this is something to keep in mind. So each of these joints has a specific place, and based on genetics or sport, they require a certain amount of mobility or certain amount of stability. A short putter and a ballerina has different setup. Okay, so we have to find according to genetic, according to the joints, and to realign it properly. And once we have that, that's when we can attend to proper movement. Because if we are not doing the movement properly, as I said earlier, we're not achieving results. Okay. Next thing we need to understand is something to know about fascia. I show you this. So fascia is the newest, probably the newest study in the human body. They only started to talk and to research it around the 1970s with Punjabi was one of the first, then a couple of other guys, and in the year of around 2000, Thomas Mayers took it more public, the concept, and since then, a lot more people are talking about fascia. Why is it important? What we know so far about fascia, I think is very little. But it's important to understand because it has something to do with pain, especially with back pain. So let's look at what is fascia first of all. If you take a piece of chicken meat, you have the silky tissue on it, but you normally pull it off, put it in the bin before you prepare the food. Now that's the fascia. So imagine that you have a muscle fiber, and you have a layer of fascia around the muscle fiber. Then you have another muscle fiber, and you have another layer of fascia around it. And then you have that fascia around that too. Right? So I'm pretty sure you get the idea that this fascia, it runs inside and around of the muscle fibers as well. Okay? So inside and around, and then this forms into tendons and ligaments, goes to the bones, spreads on the surface of the bone, goes to the next ligaments and tendons, next sets of muscle group, and around the organs. So basically what we can say is we have one single fascia, it's one single organ, and it goes all around everywhere in the body. Now, why is it important? What is it made of fascia from? Right now, what we know is the most is water and collagen. There are some other particles, but it's mainly water and collagen. So it's a very silky, liquidy, elastic network, basically we can call it. And it, as I said, it's all around. Now, what is the role of fascia? Let's look at human movement to understand one of the role of fascia. I told you about the arthrokinetic chain as like in a sandwich, it's layered. So when you do a movement in your body, every single movement in your body is a spiral movement. So if you bend forward your trunk or you bend your arm, you're doing a spiral movement. So the muscles are contracting in a spiral way. Okay? So, why spiral? If you look at the rope, for example, rope is really strong. That's why they use it for fixing the ships and for a lot of things. And the rope is a spiral structure. It's extremely strong. You cannot tear it, but extremely flexible. It's the same how your body is made up. Everything in nature made up like this. The trees, the plants, everything in a spiral structure, extremely strong but flexible at the same time. So this is how your body is made up also. And this is why I say that strength requires movement, and I will talk more about that. So when you move, it's a spiral movement. Now, in order for two muscle fibers to be able to contract if they are not next to each other, but they are doing spiral action, that they have to slide. So one of the key roles for fascia is to provide lubrication. So the muscles can slide and contract. And if you are adult enough, I'm pretty sure you know why is it important to have proper lubrication. So we need that lubrication in order to contract properly. And at the same time, it carries information. There is another trick or technique I used to demonstrate, but I can't show it like this. I would need a real person. So this is one of the key roles for fascia, and it also provides a frame for the muscles to work in. So it's like a clothes, or it's like a skin. Without that, you would fall apart. With that, it helps to keep you in compact. Now, the problem is that with our life, we make the fascia too rigid and too stiff. And it becomes smaller, it kind of, in a way, it shrinks. And it's like putting on a small clothes. You feel like that and you cannot move. So this is what happens with your muscles. When the fascia becomes a little bit more compact, you cannot move properly. Now, and if they are not moving properly, they are not able to relax or engage, then sooner or later they create tension. And when you have this tension inside the muscle tissues, you will aggravate the mechanoreceptors, and they will giving you pain sensation. But as I said earlier, where you have the pain is not where you have the problem. So fascia is very important, and one thing you have to know, and I and some other people have been talking about this for 10 years, and now science and research are more supporting this, is stretching, and I talk about passive stretching. You are not able to target neither the fascia neither the muscle. When you do passive stretching, you basically weaken a muscle. And it's proven by science that if you do passive stretching on a muscle, you cannot perform the same, you cannot do the same performance after that than before, because it becomes weaker. And you cannot stretch the fascia. Only some special techniques and some movement can help to release this tightness around this tissue, because we have to look at this as one unit. So the muscles and the fascia, they are so interwoven, we have to look at that as one. And Joseph Pilates was genius in this also, because if you look at some of the more intermediate movement, especially with equipment, that all the movement targeting their movements, first of all, and they're targeting the mobility, stability, strength environment at the same time, if you do it properly. So only movement can heal your body. That's what I always say, and it's very important, and I will explain to you a little bit later. And then you can add on special techniques which would help on this. But again, you remember, this is just helps to to get the tissues back to its function. And I would call you another kind of demonstration to feel what I'm talking about. So just stand up and feel your hip, and the back of the hip, and just make a notice of how you feel it. Just try to feel what's happening there. When we do the difference, you will feel and notice the difference. What you need to do is, with one of your foot, you step forward, you rotate in, trunk stays, but you shift the hip. And then you do that backward also. Foot rotate out, trunk stays, but you shift the hip onto that leg. So you step forward, shift, step backward, shift. Step forward, shift, and you did that 5 times, back and forth. And then step back. And now pay attention to your hip and feel and notice the difference. And what you can feel and notice is that one side, the one you did, it's more breathy, more airy. It's like, I can breathe. But at the same time, if you pay attention there, you feel more strong or more stable there. Not rigid, it's actually less rigid than the other, but stronger at the same time, more stable. So this is why I say that in order to be really strong, you need to have movement. Because rigidity and stiffness is not equals with strength. So let's do the other side so we don't miss out on that. So you step forward, rotate the hip and the foot, and you do that again 5 times, back and forth. And once you did, again, feel and notice what's happening in your pelvis, and you should feel that lightness, that breathe. So this is what I tell you. This is type of the things what we teach in the rapid back pain solution. So the movements we do, specific movement according to that pain pattern, and those movements have to realign the full neuromuscular fascial chain to its proper function and execution, so you are able to perform properly and effectively. Okay. And it's different, and I will come back to you from pain to pain. So one of the key roles, as I said, for fascia is to give that frame and lubrication, and that's one you need. And if it becomes rigid or stiff, that will create stiffness. But normally the stiffness will happen somewhere else, and the pain will happen somewhere else where the problem is. And what we need to look at again, that's the lower back area. So if you look at the arthrokinetic chain and we come to the low back section, that's a stable section supposed to be. Stable, that means weight bearing. So it's a weight bearing section, a weight bearing area requires to have strength and stability. It doesn't mean that it's not mobile, as I said earlier. So every structure in our body, mobile and stable at the same time, but it requires to carry load and weight. The problem is that we, as part of a modern society, we are weak. Generally, we are really weak. There was a research or a study a couple of years ago, I think in Australia, and they looked at some prints they find in mud. So they looked at some of our ancestors, and they find that those people who were on the planet 1,000 years ago or even earlier, they were able to outperform the today's sportmen. So they were running faster than the today Olympians. They were throwing their spears further than javelin throwers today. And women were stronger than men today, generally, because they were using actively their body. Today, as a society, we are weak and we cannot resist anything. And I think this last year clearly demonstrates the results of this. So our lower back is designed to carry weight. And if you remember Joseph Pilates' words, that's the center. And if you remember what I was teaching you, there's the center which goes through everything. So it's a start and transformation unit. So the strength, the power, the movement travels through your center. Okay? So from one leg to the other, from leg to arms, everything travels through the center. So the effect will go to the center. It should be stable, but should be able to transmit this information. But if it's weak, you won't be able to. It will stiffen up and you will experience the pain, but the problem is not coming from there, as I said earlier. So this took me quite a few years to come up. And as I said, when I started to study Pilates, I started to have more understanding. But then I started to look at more deeply the back pain. And I was able to come up with 4 common patterns. So if we were looking at the back pain, there are 4 common patterns, and in that 4 there is another about 8 variation or sub-common patterns. And based on, or beside these common patterns, there are some about 3-4 uncommon patterns, and these are the more general pains we are exposed to. So if you look at the back pain, so these are the common pains. So about 95% of the pain falls into some of these patterns. And if you can identify that, and it's really easy, I can teach you very simply, it takes a little time, but it's very simple that you can identify these patterns and then you can find a solution. Now, as I said, it took me quite a few years. Then I spent some time that how can I duplicate my method, because it's okay that I can achieve, but we as a word not getting too far ahead if I only know this. And then with these patterns I was able to add on and pass on the knowledge, and in the last pretty much 10 years I've been teaching it in many places around the world, and every teacher I taught was able to duplicate the results. And we have very high success rate. And I will talk more about that on the end. So, this is what I wanted to understand a little bit more about back pain, to have a broader picture of why we have as a society. And it's you as a Pilates instructor, I'm pretty sure you had clients, lots of clients coming with back pain. And if you do the technique, it's achieved results. It's great. Unfortunately, today people want results right now. So they want to lose weight before they come in the door. So the faster we can deliver some results to them, the better we can have their attention and motivation to stay on the track and to realign their health. Because I always say, to take away the pain, it's easy, really. In 70% of the case, it's less than 5 minutes. The fastest rehabilitation I had, I think it was 3 seconds. So it's really, really fast. But to get rid of the real problem, it takes a little consequence after that. So you have to do the movements which was designed to that, and it's simple movements, so really simple. And only a few movements which has to realign all this neuromuscular fascial working system unit targeting the arthrokinetic joint. But you have to do that in order to reprogram the body. And everyone who done it and went through that program achieved permanent results. So not just rapid, but also permanent results. And I think providing these 2K today for people who have back pain, it's quite an amazing. Now, I would call you now for a little exercise. It's it's a little bit of extraction from one of the patterns. It's not the real pattern, because we will need some special techniques to this. But what I want you to notice and to feel is what I've been talking about so far, to have an understanding. So, stand up, stand parallel with your feet, and let's find your true center, your true line, because we will work with that center line. So feet parallel and shift the hip forward and backward on the feet. And try to feel how the weight shift is to the front of the feet and to the back of the feet. And try to find the spot in between, right in the middle. So if you move it forward and backward, you will find that somewhere there will be the center. And then from one side to the other, small movements until you find the distribution evenly. And remember, I told you this, that you stand on a point under the big toe, under the little toe, and under the heel. So you stand on 3 points. So try to find the 3 points. And the pelvis will be right on the top of the center of the arch, on the top of the arch. Now, rotate the pelvis, a little bit forward and backward, and try to find again the neutral, the middle. So forward and back and stop in the middle. Once you're there, hold it there. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, release the lower rib cage, like sliding towards your belly button. That will help to open the back. Then raise the arms and slide it down on the side and drop it. It opens the chest, keep it there. And then lift the chin and the head, but make sure that you don't lift it here and the back third. That's where you lift the head. Now, connect the bottom, the center of the foot, with the center of the pelvis and the top of the head, and kind of lift it up. And try to notice what's happening in your body right now. So now you have the true line, the true center. Make sure that you feel this, because this is what we are going to work with. Okay, so you have that center line. That now come down to the floor. Lay down sideways. Okay, you can support your head, but make sure that we are setting the body like we did standing. So we have the center line. You have to lift the rib cage, the waistline. You have to sink it. Feet, butt, head, and shoulders are in line. So like you could support it to a wall, but don't do it, otherwise you won't have room to move. So you have that straight line. You have the center line, and the tension doesn't exist in your back. Okay, so make sure that you have no tension there. If you have a pillow or a small ball, you can rest your head on it. It will be better for your neck. If not, then do it this way. So you have that engagement. You engage the pelvis, and that is the anchor right now. So it's fixed, it's still. Not rigid, it's just still. And focus on the rib cage. So you rotate from the rib cage. You roll forward, that you can drop the head also. And then you roll back. Pelvis stays. The lower rib engaged, and you open the trunk back. So exhale, inhale, exhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And you do that 5 times. Let's do this to the other side also. Do the same setup. So again, set your center line, shoulders, rib cage, waistline, chest, pelvis, head, and exhale, rotate only with the chest, rib cage. So make sure that you're rotating the rib cage, the chest, forward and back. But when you go back, the pelvis and the rib cage are engaged. Once you've done it 5 times, sit up onto your heel. And make sure that you have again the same setup. So pelvis on the heel, rib cage on the pelvis, shoulders on the rib cage, head on the shoulders. So you have the center line, no tension and no rigidity or stiffness in the lower back. Now, you walk out with one finger or one hand, pelvis stays still. You walk out, and as you exhale, you reach out. Inhale as you come back, walk out to the other side, exhale. Make sure that as you do it, there is no arching, so you keep that center, keep that line. And again, exhale as you go out, inhale back. If you can, try to keep your center gently. Exhale as you go out, inhale back, exhale as you go out. And do this again as well 5 times. Good. Next, we will do the shoulder breathe. So lay down on your back, feet parallel, about fist apart. Knees just like that. You set your center line and you focus on the sitting bone. Engage them towards each other and pull it gently towards your spine. And you do a gentle rotation, gentle tilt with the pelvis. You don't squash down or push down the lower back. Gentle tilt, and then with the lower back, with your sitting bone, you roll up to that direction, vertebra by vertebra. So the movement happens to 2 directions, actually always in Pilates, to that direction. So sitting bone engaged, roll, and you pull to that direction as you pull to this. Exhale, inhale on the top, exhale as you roll down vertebra by vertebra, release. Exhale, inhale on the top, hold, and exhale, release. And again, 5 times. And one last time. You roll up, try to find that line there, inhale and exhale as you roll down. Good. Turn around. We will do a modified version of swan dive. So you don't have to come too high because as I said, these are simple movements what we are doing. But make sure that you set your center. So your pelvis is engaged, pulling the hip bones together, and the lower ribs are also engaged. So your abdominals are not pushing down to the floor. Now, inhale, and as you exhale, you lengthen up, focusing on the engagement of the hip and the lower rib cage. Exhale. Inhale, come down. So you only go up until you can keep that engaged. Good. Sit back onto your heel, reach forward, and we will do a crawling. So you crawl close to the floor, so one hand, other hand, one by one, crawling down close to the floor until you feel an opening in the upper back, but no tension in the lower back. And then walk back from the pelvis, and again walk out, exhale there, and walk back. Next time as you walk out, inhale and exhale, start the rotation. And then walk back. And 3 more times. So you walk forward, exhale, inhale, start the movement, exhale, rotate, and to the other side, and then walk back. And let's do this one more time. So you walk forward, crawl forward, keeping it close to the floor until you feel opening of the upper back. Put no tension in the lower back. Exhale, inhale as you start the rotation, exhale as you reach across, inhale, and exhale as you reach across to the other side. Back, and then you walk back. The next, come into an all four position. So feet underneath the chest and knees underneath the hip. Now, you set your center line again, so it's like swimming in all four. You set the center line, so make sure there is no tension in the lower back, no tension in the upper back, no tension in the shoulders, head, and your focus is to keep the trunk still, not rigid, not stiff, still. So make sure that you use as much as you need to keep it still, but only as little as needed to perform it properly. So what you do is to keep that still, and as you exhale, you slide with opposite arm, opposite leg, then lift and slide and back. Slide, lift, slide, back. Now make sure that you do it with breathing. So exhale, inhale. And the focus is on the stability of the trunk even when you're alternating from side to side. Exhale, inhale. Exhale. And exhale. And do 5 of both sides. Once you do the 5, once you're done with the 5, then stand up, come back to the same position where you were before, and just notice what's happening with your body. Just pay attention of how you feel it. And what you should be feeling is similar what we did with the pelvis. So you should feel more airy, more breathing, more lighter, but at the same time somehow stronger. So just spend a few seconds or a minute in this position and just strengthen it into your brain of what's happening. So basically this is what we try to achieve with each type of pain pattern, but there is a few more things we need to address in it. In this. And then I also talk a lot about in the program of the mental aspect of how our brain works, how our brain functions with pain and without pain, and how we can achieve real success, long-term success in a short amount of time. So this is basically what this program consists. As I said, the movement is simple and easy. The techniques are simple and easy. The assessment is simple and easy. So all is a really simple and easy technique. I remember on one of the courses I had some physiotherapists, and they've been practicing for 20 years, manual therapist and physiotherapist. And I took them through the program, and I clearly remember this woman's face and what she said. She said like, that's this woman's face, and what she said, she said like, that's it, it's this simple. She was like, I can't believe this. I feel it, but I can't believe it. She said she learned a lot of different techniques, method, but she could not imagine that it can be this simple, because yes, it is in a way simple, but it's very well systematized and programmized. We have to do those steps, simple methods, simple techniques, and the results, the outcome is extremely powerful and extremely effective. So I hope you enjoyed this little lecture and demonstration and movement. And I know this is not the full program, but hopefully very soon I will be able to deliver this program for you in Ireland, or if not, then this will be available online also very soon. So you can learn it. But you can also just, if I was able to opening up and raise some questions in your brain, that's already good. Or if I were giving you a little new vision of how to look at movement and how to look at back pain, then we already achieved something. I always tell the story that I really had thousands of clients, but there was only about 10, or actually less than 10, who I couldn't help with their back pain. So as a success rate, it's pretty high. So it's not, I call it 99% success, but it's actually much higher than that, which is pretty good. If we would have 99% success rate in the medical field, we could do wonders. But here we truly have. But that less than 10 people who I couldn't help was teaching me more and was giving me more towards to understanding of back pain and formalizing this rapid back pain solution system to be able to teach to clients and to trainers than all the other thousands who I had to cure, because they were forcing me to sit down and to start to think, what have I not seen? What have I missed? What have I not done properly? What could I have done better? So you as a Pilates teacher, trainer, instructor, it's a constant studying. And this should be part of your nature, that always think about what you are doing, not just teaching the shame system. Yes, in this back pain management system, I teach a pattern, but I teach a pattern and I teach you how to think in these patterns and how to form it. But that's only a part, that just take away the back pain and realign it. But then to bring the people into a healthy unit, you need to think all the time. So I always say that this job is an amazing job, amazing profession, because you can help for people, but you constantly have to think and to be there mentally in your mind to do it properly, to provide the best for your clients. So thank you very much that you are joining me on this conference. Thank you for Iman and for the Federation to organizing this and making this available for you in this environment, to even if it's not a live but an online version of the conference, and you could join it. And as I said, hopefully I will be able to see you either in live or in the program, and I can give you some more knowledge. So thank you very much, and I enjoy the other sessions as well. Put it into good use and have for your clients. See you guys.